more of this kind of content, you can subscribe to the channel, like the video, and leave a comment. The spacecraft capsule trembled like a wounded animal as it plummeted through the turquoise atmosphere. Zoltan 5, an uncharted planet on the outskirts of the Milky Way. Astronaut Nathan Carter was alone, battling the deafening alarms blaring in the cramped cockpit. Red lights flashed incessantly while the main screen displayed the dreaded message system. Irrecoverable. Damn it, damn it, damn it. He punched the panel, but nothing changed. The searing heat of atmospheric entry made the capsule vibrate as if it were on the verge of disintegration. The last thing he saw before the crash was a surreal landscape, vast glowing forests, shimmering rivers that seemed composed of pure energy, and floating mountains, suspended like islands in the sky. When he came to the capsule was in ruins. The heavy air smelled of ozone and something sweet, but the gravity was surprisingly tolerable. Nathan coughed, his head pounding. His suit was intact, but the communication systems were dead. No chance of calling for rescue here. I am screwed in an alien paradise. As he explored, it became clear he wasn't alone. In the distance, he heard strange sounds, like a hypnotic chant resonating deep within his chest. Nathan followed the noise, moving through a forest of trees, glowing in shades of blue and silver. He barely noticed that he was being watched. Suddenly, a colossal shadow crossed his path. He turned and saw something that made him instinctively step back. It was a humanoid figure, but gigantic, standing over 9 foot tall. Its skin was a deep luminous blue, almost like liquid sapphire, and its golden eyes glowed like miniature the figure's voice was a deep musical echo. You do not belong here. Nathan tried to respond, but he was mesmerized. The figure stepped closer, and he realized it was a woman, an alien of extraordinary beauty, with delicate features and a presence that was both intimidating and calming. I crashed here. I had no choice. He finally Man, swallowing hard, the alien tilted her head, observing him as though he were a puzzle. I am Karth, and you are small. Nathan let out a nervous laugh. Thanks. That really boosts my self-esteem. Karth extended a hand, but Nathan hesitated. I won't harm you, she said, her voice carrying a weight of sincerity that transcended any language barrier. He accepted the gesture, and his hand disappeared into hers. Her touch was warm, almost comforting, yet it radiated an energy that made every hair on his body stand on end. In the weeks that followed, Nathan learned more about Zoltan 5 and its sole inhabitant. Karth explained that her people had left centuries ago, seeking refuge in other galaxies after a catastrophic war rendered the planet uninhabitable for most life forms. She had stayed behind by choice, or perhaps exile. She never fully explained. Nathan, meanwhile, was torn between the urgency of repairing the wreckage of his capsule and the strange connection he felt with KTH. He spent hours working in silence, while she watched, occasionally offering cryptic advice in her enigmatic language. One evening, as the sky erupted into colors like a planet-wide aurora borealis, Nathan felt an irresistible urge. He approached KTH, who was sitting on a floating rock, gazing at the stars. Why did you stay here in a place so lonely? He asked. She looked at him, her golden eyes glowing in the dim light. Perhaps for the same reason you can't seem to leave now. Nathan's heart raced. There was something about the way she looked at him, as though she could see straight into his soul. He moved closer, their faces now inches apart. And what reason is that? Karth didn't answer. Instead, she leaned in slowly until their lips met. The kiss was at once strange and familiar, like two opposing forces finally finding balance. There was warmth, energy, and a surge of emotions Nathan hadn't known he could feel when they pulled apart. She whispered, perhaps you already know. And in that moment, Nathan realized his mission to leave wasn't as urgent as he had thought. Dawn on Stan 5 was a spectacle Nathan never grew tired of witnessing. The sky shifted in hues of lavender and gold, with pulsating lights dancing between the clouds like spectral apparitions. Yet that morning the scenery felt distant. The kiss he had shared with Karth the night before lingered in his mind like a silent storm. He found himself touching his lips trying to make sense of what it all meant. Karth seemed more withdrawn that morning, wandering through the forest with heavy yet graceful steps. Nathan followed her, keeping some distance until he could no longer hold back. Karth, wait, she stopped, but didn't turn around. You still want to leave, don't you? Her voice sounded like a melancholy melody. Nathan hesitated. I don't know what I want. Part of me feels like I should go back. My mission, my home. Karth turned, and for the first time her gaze held something other than serene confidence. It was pain. Then go rebuild your ship, but know this: once you leave, you cannot return. My people made this planet forget how to welcome visitors. Forget. Nathan was puzzled. What do you mean by that? Karth pointed to the horizon. This planet is alive. It feels, learns, and rejects those who abandon it. If you leave, it will be forever. Nathan felt a lump in his throat. The thought of never seeing her again was something he didn't want to face, but there was also a persistent voice in his mind reminding him of who he was: an astronaut and explorer. He didn't belong here. Later, Nathan returned to the wreckage of his capsule. He spent hours tinkering with cables, welding panels, and trying to restore the power systems, but progress was slow. The alien metal of Zryan 5 reacted unpredictably, almost as if resisting his human technology. As he worked, he heard soft footsteps behind him. Karth was watching him again, but this time there was something different about his stance, a kind of cold resolve. You won't fix this on your own, she said. Nathan sighed. Then help me. If you truly care about me, help me leave. Karth's response was unexpected. She approached slowly, knelt beside him, and placed a warm giant hand on his shoulder. I care, that's why I want you to stay. Nathan closed his eyes, feeling the weight of her work. KTH, if I stay, what happens to me? I'm not your size, your strength. I won't survive here for long. Karth gave a small smile, the golden glow in her eyes softening. You don't need to be like me to survive. The planet will care for you, and so will I. Her tone completely disarmed him. He wanted to argue, to shout, but all he could do was look at her. What if I'm not enough? What if I can't be part of this? She tilted her head, studying him again. Then without warning, she pulled him closer. Their faces were so near he could feel the warmth of her breath. Let me decide that. The tension between them grew like lightning about to strike, but before either could say another word, the ground began to tremble. A deep pulsating sound echoed through the forest like the beating of a giant drum in an uneven rhythm. Karth jumped to her feet, her eyes wide with alarm. They are here. Nathan frowned, confused. Who? She grabbed his arm with surprising strength. Come with me. Now, with no choice, he followed her as the sound grew louder. When they reached a hill overlooking the valley below, Nathan saw something that made his stomach churn. Silver discs hovered in the sky, surrounded by crackling electric energy. They fired blue beams into the forest, incinerating trees and scorching the ground in explosions that roared like thunder. What the hell is that? Nathan shouted. Hunters, Karth replied. Through gritted teeth, they come to scavenge what's left of my people. They must not find me or you. Nathan froze for a moment, unable to process everything. Why are they after you? Karth didn't answer. Instead, she pulled a small artifact from her belt, a glowing disc pulsing with white light. This will shield us for a time, but we can't stay here. Nathan swallowed hard. The urgency in her eyes said it all. Without arguing, he ran alongside Karth as the flying discs drew closer, raining destruction with their energy beam. As they fled, Nathan realized something terrifying. He was no longer just a lost explorer on a strange planet. He was part of something far greater and far more dangerous. But looking at Karth running beside him with fierce determination, he knew one thing for certain: he would do whatever it took to protect her, even if it meant never retaining home. Nathan and Karth ran to a hidden clearing within the glowing, for the air around them felt heavier, charged with electricity. Karth held the luminous artifact in her large hands, twisting it skillfully. A dome of white light began to form around them, creating a temporary refuge from the devastating rays of the hovering flying discs above. Nathan, panting, bent over with his hands on his knees, staring at Karth. Why are they after You tell me the truth. KTH hesitated but finally nodded. My people were guardians of an ancient something. These invaders seek to dominate galaxies. I am the last bearer of this power. She raised her hands and the artifact's light pulsed as if it were a part of her. If they capture me, Zoltan 5 will die and so will I. Nathan stared at her, a wave of desperation and resolve surging in his chest. So what do we do now? How can we fight this? Karth moved closer gently, placing a warm hand on his face. You weren't meant to be here, Nathan. This isn't your fight. Don't say that, he replied, his voice low but firm. I'm not letting you face this alone. The flying discs began closing and tearing through the treetops with their lethal beams. The explosions made the ground tremble and the air grew heavier with each passing second. Nathan looked at Karth, realizing there was no time for elaborate plans. If we stay here, they'll find us, he said, but maybe we can trick them. KTH's expression turned serious. What do you have in mind? Nathan remembered the wreckage of his capsule. Though the main systems were destroyed, he had managed to reactivate some of the energy. A risky but powerful distraction. The capsule, if I overload the core, it'll create an explosion big enough to take these bastards down. Karth hesitated. And you survive them? Nathan took her hands, feeling the comforting warmth radiating from her sapphire blue skin. If we don't do this, it won't matter whether I survive or not. I chose to stay here, Karth, for you. I won't let them destroy what you love. She pulled him into an embrace that made time feel as though it had stopped. Nathan felt the gravity of his decision, but knew there was no other way. Together they raced to the wreckage of the capsule. Nathan worked frantically on the core controls while Karth maintained the protective dome around them. The sound of the flying disc was deafening now, and beams of blue light streaked just inches above their heads. Almost ready, Nathan shouted over the noise. KTH looked at him, her golden eyes glowing with a mix of fear and hope. I trust you, Nathan, he smiled. Then trust this too. He pressed the final button, initiating the course overload sequence. Now run. They ran as far as they could, but at the last moment, Karth stopped. She raised the artifact, channeling its energy to create a barrier around them. When the capsule exploded, the impact was colossal. A wave of light and heat swept through the area, toppling the flying disc like leaves in a storm. Nathan collapsed to the ground, the sound of the explosion still ringing in his ears. When he opened his eyes, Karth was standing beside him, exhausted but smiling. She helped him to his feet, her hands steady despite the strain. We did it, he murmured, looking up at the now clear sky. You did it, she replied, her smile full of gratitude. Later, as the stars emerged in the sky, Nathan and Karth sat together on a hill. The forest around them felt more alive than ever, as though the planet itself was thanking them for its salvation. So Karth began, do you still want to leave? Nathan looked at her, absorbing every detail, the shimmer of her skin, the eyes that seemed to hold entire galaxies, the strength and vulnerability that made her unlike anyone he had ever known. I've already made my decision. My home is no longer among the stars, it's here with you. Karth leaned closer and their lips met again. There were no doubts, fears, or uncertainties, only the warmth of a future shared together in a world where the impossible had become real. As the starlight enveloped them, Nathan knew for the first time that he was exactly where he was meant to be.